What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if it's your first time here. It's your boy Manta back again with another video, and as you can probably hear, I am sick. That is part of having a 6-year-old. They go to school, they get sick, they come lay in your bed, and now everybody's sick. But either way, the content gotta come out. So for today's video, what we're going to be talking about is the recent announcement by the Game Awards about DLCs, expansions, things like that being nominated for Game Awards. And, you know, I think this discussion might have started a couple of years ago because these DLCs and expansions, you know, back in the day, it might be an extra like 5-8 hours or so. But now when it comes to DLCs, like we're seeing very highly rated 30-hour plus really fleshed out campaigns into these games. And realistically, I do think they should be nominated for something. Like whether they should be Game of the Year is another thing in and of itself, but I do think they should be recognized, you know, for their efforts. So we're gonna get into all of that. If you are new to the channel, like I said, please do hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and let's get right into it. So I think for a lot of people, the main, you know, game or expansion that came to a lot of people's minds when it came to getting nominated for any type of awards for this year was probably Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Now, Elden Ring was such a big game, got a 96 overall Metacritic 2 years ago, and it was, you know, sweeping pretty much a bunch of the award shows just because of how expansive it was. I was late to Elden Ring. I did play it this year, put in, I think it was like 83 hours around that to get through the main campaign. And then I jumped right into the DLC, which I put in another 35 hours or so. And yeah, I mean, the people thought like, okay, it's just gonna be more Elden Ring, but realistically, it added a whole lot more. There was more mechanics into it, more bosses, a whole new fleshed out world, pretty much third map for the game. And I think, yeah, it should be recognized for something. Now, when it comes to, we could call it, I don't want to say favoritism, but we do know Jeff Keighley has his, you know, certain, whether it's developers or publishers that he's more fond of, like From Software, Kojima, things like that. So people may think, okay, is this just going to win automatically if it is, you know, nominated because of the slight, you know, bias that people feel like they have? That is a little bit of controversy when it comes to this. And now the specific quote used from the Game Awards was, "Are DLCs, expansion packs, and remakes/remasters eligible?" And their response was, "The Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are all eligible in the categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as the newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration." And I think that was another bit of controversy last year where people saying like these remakes that are coming out, specifically remakes of what are considered some of the best games of all time, like Resident Evil 4 remake, Dead Space remake, Final Fantasy 7 remake. It's like, if those games are like, let's say if they made an Ocarina of Time remake, it's automatically going to be considered Game of the Year because that is considered the best game or one of the best games of all time. So it's kind of like people are saying, should remakes be considered? And for me, again, I don't know if you can say, okay, they can be considered for best fighting game or best shooter or best action adventure, but you don't want them in the Game of the Year category. It's kind of hard to say that. For me personally, I would like that. Like I would think they need, like, these expansions and remakes and everything like that are great and they take a bit of effort, right? Like it's not just, oh, they copy and paste and made, like these are made from the ground up a lot of the times and they should be recognized for that. But as far as Game of the Year category, I feel like the Game of the Year should be something brand new, fresh. It doesn't have to be a new IP. It could be a sequel, whatever, but it needs to be something that we've seen it before. We know how highly touted it is, and it kind of has a bias towards it just off of its name alone. I feel like that kind of will skew things a little bit. So as far as remakes, remasters, even expansions, if you want to say it, as far as being nominated, I think it should be. As far as Game of the Year, I do think that would kind of cause a bit of issues if you put it in those categories. And the other controversy comes up when you talk about games that aren't nominated, right? So Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed, even the other, I think it was Future Connected for the first one. Then you had Torna, the Golden Country. These expansions are 30, 40, maybe even 50 hours long when you try to do all the side content. And that's kind of what is said in the quote, like the value and the price for what you're getting for the game, it should be considered. And I think they do give you a lot of value when it comes to that. Or even when we mentioned Shadow of the Erdtree, it's like these games, we'll say like JRPG specifically, if we're going to stay on the Xenoblade Chronicles route, they're not really recognized. Now, Metaphor this year, Final Fantasy VII, a bunch of the Dragon's Dogma, some of these RPGs are going to be considered because they're just undeniable this year. But traditionally, JRPG specifically, not just games with RPG elements and things like that, they're not really recognized, even if their Metacritic scores are pretty high, because a lot of journalists are the ones that come up with what gets nominated and what should be in these categories. And if they don't actually, spend the time to play through these games, or they're not super popular, they don't get nominated. And then you get the controversy of, okay, they're not nominated, but even though it got an 89 or 90 Metacritic, then you have the expansion on top of that, which also, added a lot of value to the game and was really well received by fans. And then you don't, recognize or nominate that as well. Now you got a whole new controversy on your hands. And it doesn't stop there, right? Because now people are thinking of older games that should have been nominated, possibly. Like you think of the Skyrim expansions, or even, Destiny, should those count if it's a game as a service? Should these DLCs or expansions now, nominate the games for best ongoing game and things like that? You had the Witcher 3 Blood and Wine expansion before. You had Phantom Liberty from Cyberpunk last year, which I still haven't gotten to, but it's like now you're thinking about all the games that could have been nominated that actually weren't. And that brings up a whole nother issue. And again, like I said, I'm fine with it. I do think certain things, like publishers are these publications and game reviewers and things like that, these people, they know what could be considered nominated for these things. I don't think we'll get some random game that doesn't belong there necessarily when it comes to expansions and remakes. I just don't want it to get watered down where these now take places of newer IP or newer ideas or even sequels to other games, or DLC that's only 8 hours long versus it was a 30-hour really fleshed out game and things like that. So again, I'm fine with it. If Shadow of the Erdtree is nominated for something, I'll probably be voting for it either way, because I did think it was really good. And I might be a little biased because I played Elden Ring and then Shadow of the Erdtree together, like right back to back. So it's way more fresh in my mind, and I consider that as one experience. But either way, I do think, some of these games should be nominated. Same way with remakes and things like that. Do I think they should get their own category? No, I do not. I don't think we need to make a whole new category and then, developers start just putting out whatever just to get nominated and try and win something. And it doesn't really do that much for the game, right? Like games that get nominated for these awards, you think of like the Oscars or Grammys, oh, I didn't know about that, I'll go check it out. For DLCs and expansions, most likely than not, the people that are playing it are people that played the base game. You're not seeing an expansion and going, oh, I want to go play the base game. Like, that's just not really how it works. So either way, that's my thoughts on everything. You guys let me know in the comment section below. How do you feel about expansions, DLCs, even remakes and remasters being nominated for Game Awards? I know people say we shouldn't care about the Game Awards, but then we also care about it. It's kind of like the Grammys. People say the Grammys don't matter, but then they care if they win or don't get nominated. Who knows? But y'all let me know again in the comment section below. Subscribe if you have not already. Leave a like on this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.